tying this in the concept of pro-life. And we're not, I mean, just to make a disclaimer, this is not the concept of anti-abortion, pro-abortion. This is, what are we talking with pro-life? So to believe in a good God is to revere all life. Every soul has an eternal value. Every heartbeat carries divine intention. Here we explore what it means to see life as sacred, not just biologically, but spiritually. The divine spirit dwells within each person, affirming that no life is accidental, and every act of goodness contributes to the soul's eternal journey. What can you tell us about this pro-life idea concept that you've evolved?
Yes. So for me, over the years, when I was thinking of God, I got to the point where I had to say, okay, God is good. And then when I started to converse with people that God is good, I realized that everyone's like, oh, yeah, of course. When they begin to talk about God, you're like, but that is not a good attribute. You're like, the way you're painting God is not good. So then I said, okay, let
This is
me.
good. This is good. The word you said, attribute. You have to look
Correct.
at the attributes, because you were saying, yeah, somebody can just label somebody, but what are the attributes that make them that? So continue, please.
Correct. The attributes that make them that. So for me, this was a personal evolution, right? So then I started to think, okay, when I talk with people, there was what I'm experiencing within myself, then there's also the interaction I have with people. And when I'm trying to pass along the message of a good God, everybody is like, yeah, 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 we believe that. But then I realize I can't really explain to them how good God is, because the attributes they have of God are still bad. But when you say God, they're like, yeah, 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 yeah. So that's why I was like, okay, let me remove God completely from it.
Yes.
Let me say life. And what have I experienced of life? I've experienced life to be progressively good. So that
Okay.
is where I now started to write. And I wrote down in my diary, progressive life. And I was like, this is my religion. So I was like,
Okay. Okay.
my fundamental belief is that there is life within me that is taking me on a progressive journey of experiencing more life. The experience started for me like almost 10 years ago. I was this pro-life experience. I was meditating one time, and I just started to sense this sort of like blurring of who I am and
Okay.
and like who I am. Suddenly, I started to feel that I was beyond just my identity as my name, my everyday experience, and I was experiencing something that has always been and always will be. And that was the first time I was like, wait a second. This is the essence of life.
You
Like,
felt yourself beyond your limitations, your own
correct.
constrictions. Okay.
Then I started to think on it, right, in the meditation. And then I was like, wait a sec. And thoughts were coming to my mind. And the thoughts were like this. Where do you see yourself in 200 years? I was like, what? Like, well, I'm definitely dead. Like, I'm definitely dead. But I did not feel dead. I felt my response was, I would be in a state where I'm experiencing more of this life. That was what I felt. I felt like it's very strange to explain. It's like
There wasn't a break. I mean, it wasn't a death. It was a continuum of your life.
there
I
was
can
this
relate to that. I had a similar
correct,
experience to that, where
correct,
you do not have time. You just have evolution, progression. Continue.
correct progression. So I felt like, well, 200 years from now, I'll be experiencing a more higher form of life. And then there was no death. And then it was like, okay, 2,000 years from now, even more of it. 200 years, 200,000 years from now, even, okay,
Eternity.
there's no end.
Yes.
Exactly. There is no end. And for the first time, I stopped being afraid, because I finally began to experience what it means to be a particular life. That death is an illusion. It's just a doorway. Death is a doorway to the next and to the next. There is no fear. From that moment, all the fear-based system I had, it just
It
left,
disappeared.
completely disappeared. And from then I just started going everywhere like, well, I'm gonna live forever. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
there is no fear with God. There is no fear. There's this just life and more life. So I started to write it down and write out my own personal experiences. And then I think a year or two later, a year or two ago, I now finally coined it as progressive life. And that
I
is
like
my
it.
experience. And I said, okay, progressive living is my religion. So then I shortened it to pro-life religion. And then I was like, wait. So I went to my wife. I was like, hey, can you believe I've come up with this really amazing concept? And it's like life is progressive and it's this and it's my religion. So I am a pro-life. And she's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, are you having the conversation about abortion or is somebody pregnant or what's going
But I
on?
like this definition much better because it really takes the conflict out and gives us eternal life. And this is interesting, Tony. You're saying, I mean, you're explaining your transformation, you know, and that we all fear death, and like you experienced that. I had a similar experience where I saw, I don't want to say time, but I saw that my continuum in time wasn't going to be interrupted. It was a continuum, even if it wasn't in the material state. It's kind of
Correct.
hard to explain. But
Correct.
how, the question here is, how can someone that is listening to us and that has a fear of death and has fear based insecurities, what can they do in their everyday living to get to this point where they can see that there's pro-life, that there's continuum beyond this material existence?
There is a system of meditation have practiced for pretty much all my life. And I'm going to explain it, and this is what got me there, but it's not a system for everybody. It's not a cookie cutter thing or any of
Okay.
that. It's my personal experience. But when people ask me, I tell it to them. So from a young age, I used to get up at night, actually, not by myself. My dad is a pastor, and every night he got up every night at 2 a.m. And there was this really squeaky door. We had a room, a prayer room, and a personal study room. He would go from the master bedroom to that prayer room, but the door to that prayer room was so squeaky that at 2 a.m. it will wake me up because I'm a very light sleeper. So over years, I started from the age of like 5, 6, 7, I started to realize my dad wakes up every night. And then I asked him one time, I was like, Dad, what do you do? You wake up it's like he goes to pray. So I was like, okay, every night. So then I started to listen. When I would hear the squeaky door, I would get up as well and I would just kneel beside my bed. And I wouldn't know what I'm doing. I'm just like, well, dad must be praying somewhere. Let me also try this out. So I started to do that and I did that for years and years until I got into a state where one day I was I was meditating and I was praying and I started to say something over and over, which was, I am in you and you are in me. And that was it. And all my prayer up until that point stopped. That became all of my prayer, even till today. Because I got to this state where I realized not only is divine presence in me, I am also in this divine presence. It's a union of life. And that became my meditation. So when I
Your
want to
mantra,
meditate,
your
eh,
thing that repeats and reaffirms you. It's an archetype that structures everything that you
correct,
see, your
correct,
cells, everything.
correct. So when I want to meditate, I simply sit or whatever posture that is comfortable, and I begin to center myself around that. I am in you and you are in me. And I just focus on that. Every cell of my being is experiencing your life. And at the same time, the divine is experiencing me.
This is important, and we're going to talk about this. Yes.
Yeah.
Continue.
So it's a two-way stream and it's a collaborative stream where you're both experiencing one, and it's over time, it unifies into one life. So that's what I do. So when people ask me, I've taught when I used to coach people in spiritual coaching or anything, even health and stuff, I just tell, they ask me, okay, so how do you meditate or how do you pray? I tell them my prayer is very simple. I am in you and you're in me. That's it.
We're part of the life. It's this
Correct.
and I like your concept because that is evolution. And that
Correct.
it's not only our individual evolution, but we're evolving here on earth as humanity. We're
Yes.
also evolving universally as the universe. And I love this
Correct.
concept. Maybe people are going to hear it for the first time, but the concept of God the Supreme. And I like this because we are all God the Supreme. I mean, God has many attributes, and he has personality, and he's the everything. But since he's the first source and center controller, upholder of everything, he's in the center, and everything revolves
Correct.
around that. So how can he experience that? How can he really, enjoy and experience his universe? He has to do it through us. So
Correct.
not only are we trying to reach for God, he is living each individual experience, good, bad, or whatnot, when we err, when we are good. So that really makes us part of a whole that is evolving, a part of of this concept of the supreme, that eventually we will all be perfected. And I love that.
Correct.
We're in God is in paradise and he's already perfect, but everybody that's in the worlds of time and space is evolving from imperfection to perfection. And I really love
Correct.
that because it's just what you're saying. It's I, an individual pro-life, going into this evolution of the whole.
Correct. And it became something where I would tell people, oh, people used to tell me, oh, well, if you don't believe in this, then you're going to hell. And then I would say to them, well, God is in hell. And they'll be like, what do you mean? How dare you say God is in hell? I'm like, well,
God is everywhere.
who is going to sustain life? if you believe somehow that there is a place of torment and torture, who sustains the
Yes,
like
yes.
so
Yeah, and you know why I use so much, why I like Star Wars so much? Because there is a battle between good and evil, the dark side and the bright side, but the force is overarching. It does not distinguish who's bad and who's good. Only the
correct.
way that you use goodness and badness, but it's an overarching force that does not care about the consequence. I mean, it does care about the consequences, but it's not on one side or the other. It lets it play out, and it lets
There is
the
no
individuals
darkness,
outplay it.
there's no absence of its presence,
Exactly.
so and well, of course I don't believe in the concept of hell as such, like
Me
from a
either.
theological standpoint of Christianity, but I used to use that as an illustration for people. Why? Because it knocks out their fear. Because if you're afraid of something, whatever fear you have is an aspect of your consciousness that God has not yet like invaded, pretty much. Because or rather, it's not that God hasn't gotten, it's that you have not evolved to realize that God is already there.
Yeah.
Because
And
we
he's
are
already
starting
forgiven you. He's already
correct.
forgiven you, accepted you.
Correct. We are starting from ignorance into knowledge, right? So we will say things, we will do things without knowing. And when we get into the knowledge, that is not when knowledge began. Knowledge always is, but we just were not there yet, and now we're experiencing it. So that's the same thing of the idea of the supreme being. For me, I like, w- I never knew that word, that concept until a few years ago. And when I found, I was like, this is what I've been telling people.
This is it.
I've been telling people. I remember it was heresy when I told some friends that, do you realize that God evolves with you? And it's like, no, God is perfect. God is this. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But do you realize that God is experiencing your experience, which means there is something unique that is acquiring from being with you and in you and through you. And you at the same time are experiencing God. So there's going to come to a point in which God has a full awareness of you and you have a full awareness of God. And at such a time, life is whole. Who you
Yes.
are is whole. So it's like there's this journey And at some point, it merges. And that is who you are becoming.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
who you are becoming. And when you tell people this, they're like, okay, it's because it's still a difficult concept because on one end, people really struggle to see that God is in them. And the reason is because
It's
we've been
merging
so
with you.
beaten down.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
We've been so
I love.
beaten down. And we've been
Uh,
told that you are a terrible human, you are a sinner, you need you need something
you're not worthy.
beyond
You're
you.
not worthy to
You're not
receive God, but
worthy.
actually, God is inside of you already.
Correct. Correct.
You just have to discover him, and this is very interesting, Tony. I mean, it's that fragment that lives within us, and both you
Correct.
and I believe and are confident in, and we let that divine spark guide us. And I think this is very important that we all hear that still small voice inside of us that is trying to merge. And I love this concept of how we're becoming one with God, and eventually, and it's hard to grasp because you have to kind of, it's very intangible because in one part you have God as a personality in the center of the universe, but he is also distributed around the universe in fragments. When you try to understand these concepts that are so beyond, and how can one be a personality and then indwell the entire universe? And I love it's a story. There was this kid that was playing on the beach, and he was trying to fill, he was filling a hole with the water of the ocean, and a man came around and said, "What are you trying to do?" He's saying, I'm trying to fill this hole. I'm putting the ocean into this hole." And he says, "Oh, poor kid, do you think you'll be able to fit the ocean in that hole?" And the kid replies, "Do you think you'll be able to fit God's mind in your own?" So that's the enormity of trying to understand God. You just
Correct.
enjoy it, and you refresh in the waves and be united with him, you know?
Yes. I think it's very important for all individuals to pay more time to observe life.
Yes.
Because if you I remember one time I was in Switzerland, I was having a physio session and my physio teacher was talking about nature bathing. She had found this like a course about bathing in nature, which is just going and soaking in life. And my first instinct was like, that's ridiculous. Don't people already know that there is life all around them? But then I was like, wait a second. Isn't that what I do when I go out into the garden? And he's the same.
Exactly.
He's like, accepted, you know, and that's the reality. We all need to stop several times a day to realize that we are experiencing life and life is experiencing us. And it's not just me, it's not just you, it's everything. It's the trees, it's the plants, it's the dogs, the cats, the snakes, even those that don't like snakes. It's everything.
We're
All
part
of
of
life.
everything, yes.
Exactly. And we're all experiencing life. Like I'll use a story that happened to me that's really, really made a difference. So several years ago, when I was a student, I used to work in the kitchen in my university to fund my studies and take care of myself. So I'll go to class in the day and in the evening I'll work in the kitchen. So while I'm working, you interact with other students, they bring the dishes and everything, you're interacting with them and you talk, you're just talking and everything. And then one day, one lady just comes to the counter, drops her dishes, chats like 20 seconds and goes. And the moment she goes, I get this thought of this question dropped in my mind. It was like, did you see me? And I was like, there are these random thoughts that drop into your mind where you're like, where did that come from? you know? And it's like, did you see me? And I was like, what? Now because I spend a lot of time meditating, I'm used to having these random thoughts dropping in my mind. So I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, I just chatted with you. Did you see me? And I was like, that's true. And then the thought was like, every interaction you have with any form of life is you interacting with me. And it was a mundane
This is
interaction
so
of
beautiful,
taking
but it is.
dishes. Yeah, it's like a mundane interaction. I just took a dish. Hey, how are you? How's school? How's everything? Oh, thank you. Bye bye. I'm just doing regular, mundane things. And that's our life. We mostly just do mundane things. We go to the 9 to 5, we just do stuff. But we need to pause to realize that, hey, that boss you have at work that you absolutely hate, you are interacting with God. Like, you're interacting with
Find a way to get around that hate.
Find a way to get around that hatred. Your spouse, your kids, your uncle that you never want to see at Christmas. All of these things, the pain that you feel, the desperation, the loneliness, the hurt, you're experiencing life, and you're not alone. Like, it's not just you, this solitary being in all of the universe, just having this unique lonely experience. No, life is with you experiencing it, and you are not alone.
Oh, this is so beautiful, and I really like that.
On the Divine Within podcast, we'll share real conversations to help you find a personal connection with God. My goal is to support your faith, growth, and journey toward discovering the divine within yourself. Join us to deepen your faith and spiritual journey.